Hello, Kingston kids, and anyone joining with us to hear another Gumbagawhatzah story. Hello to Carter and Lyman, and Luke and Paige, Ryan and Lane, Eloise, Cooper, Kennedy, Kate, Kara, Lauren, Izzy, Sammy, Aubrey, Scotty, Cabell and Ellis, and anyone else that's with us. As a matter of fact, if you'd like your name to be added to our list of Kingston kids, let your parents or another adult you love know, and let them contact us either on the computer or by phone in the church office, and we will add you to the list. Maybe you've heard about the Gumbagawhatzah by now. The Gumbagawhatzah is a very special thing. It can be carried like a little suitcase. And yet, if you set it down and it has a little yellow button that shows up on it and lights up, and you push that button and it grows big, as big as a house. And then there's a door inside, and you walk inside, and inside there is a chair for each child with your name on it. Everybody's name. Everybody has a very special place inside the Gumbagawhatzah, and it's a very big, comfortable chair for each of you. And you sit down in that very special chair, and you look out at a screen or a window out, and then once you're sitting down and you have your seatbelt on, the Gumbagawhatzah begins to lift up off the ground. And it goes places. Right now, we're going to go 2 different places. And on the way, once we've lifted up off the ground and we look out and the Gumbagawhatzah flies out over the water, then those windows are going to change, and we're not going to see the beautiful clouds and the water for a few minutes. Instead, we're going to see some stories on the screens to help us with where we're going. First of all, we're going to go to Scandinavia. Scandinavia is the northern part of Europe. There are really 4 countries in Scandinavia: Sweden and Norway, Finland, and Denmark. And sometimes we include Iceland with Scandinavia too. And in that part of the world, at this time of year before Christmas, they celebrate a very special person named Lucy. Lucy is a name that means light. Lucy means light. And they celebrate this Italian girl named Lucy, who lived long ago, more than 1,600 years ago, in Italy, what we call Italy now. And she was a Christian at a time when there were Christian persecutions. In other words, some of the leaders in Italy, or in Rome, the Roman Empire as it was called, would actually kill Christians for being Christian. And Lucy did some wonderful things. She healed her own mother of some terrible illnesses. But she also eventually got taken and killed for being a Christian. And so we remember Lucy for being faithful and strong and courageous. And it's interesting, of course, that she then becomes so important to people in Scandinavia, because Italy is way down in the southern part of Europe on the Mediterranean Sea. And these countries in Scandinavia are way up north on the North Sea, where it's very cold, especially this time of year, and very dark much of the time this time of year. We're about to have the shortest day of the year. It always happens just a couple days before Christmas. And so it's very dark where we're going. And the Gumbagawhatzah is going to give each of you some special warm mittens to wear and some beautiful boots and some warm clothes for when we are there. And so you won't be cold. But the reason they celebrate Lucy there in Scandinavia is because, well, where they are on the North Sea, lots of people depend on the water for fishing. And obviously in the wintertime when it's dark and cold so much, you can't have a garden. And so there isn't very much food unless you can store it up. And one year, long ago, but long after St. Lucy lived in Italy, there were people that were so hungry because there wasn't enough food at Christmas time. And there was a terrible storm on the sea. And there was a great ship that was coming up from the south, bringing food for the people. But the ship could not come because of the storm on the sea. They couldn't even find their way. And the story goes that St. Lucy came and stood at the bow of the ship and showed them the way. And she did that in two very special ways. One, she wore a white robe, which is what people used to wear when they were baptized. As a matter of fact, many of our babies, when they're baptized at church, are wearing a white baptism gown, as we call it. Some of you were baptized in a beautiful little white dress, even some of you boys, when you were babies. And so Lucy is wearing this long white dress, and then she had a crown on her head. But it wasn't just a regular king's crown, because she wasn't a queen. It was a crown almost like an Advent wreath with candles on it. And those candles were so bright that the ship could find its way into the port and bring food to the hungry people in the village. And so she was sort of a person who was a lighthouse in a way. And so she is remembered among people in Scandinavia as always being able to help in the darkest and coldest times. Lucy, light, bringing the lighthouse to people and bringing food to people. So when we go to Scandinavia on the Gumbagawhatzah, and we're on the way right now, we are going to see the way they celebrate St. Lucy today. And what they do is they find a young woman, one of the older kids that can wear a crown of candles. And sometimes they have electric candles nowadays. But originally they were always candles with real fire on them. So that we had to have somebody who was able to be very careful. And that person dresses in a white gown and then leads a procession of all the kids. and they walk through the village. And that's what we're going to do, because guess what? Did you feel it? The Gumbagawhatzah just landed. We are now in Scandinavia. And if you will notice, right there at the arm of your chair, there is a beautiful pair of mittens. What color would you like? That's the color they are. And there's a beautiful set of boots down on the ground right beside you. You go ahead and pull those up on your legs so they keep your feet good and warm. And then there's a big parka, a big coat that you can wrap yourself in. And once you are all ready with those mittens on to keep your hands good and warm, let's go outside the Gumbagawhatzah and see what we see. And there it is. There she is, as a matter of fact, the girl in this village who is St. Lucy for this year. And you'll notice all the kids behind. They're all wearing white baptism gowns and coats because it's cold. And they are processing through the village. Now, we get to walk along with them. We are going to be part of the parade, part of St. Lucy's parade. And St. Lucy is going to take us to the local church, to the parish house at the church, and there's going to be some very good sweets to eat, because Lucy always brings good food to people. And so all the children of the village and all of us together walk through this village with the beautiful snow all around us and icicles that are as big as you. And there are sleds and I think there may even be a reindeer out in the field. All kinds of beautiful things. And also up ahead, there is that church. I can see it with candles in the window. And the bell is ringing. And we get to walk inside there. And there is some nice hot cider to drink. And some Lusekuchen, which are these funny little, sort of like, almost like donuts, except they're not shaped like donuts. And there's ginger cookies. Those are the two big things that you almost always have at a St. Lucy party. I hope you like ginger cookies. They're really good. They're sweet, and yet they also have this little zing to them. So good. And so we get to remember St. Lucy. Remember this person who was very faithful to God, who saved people from hunger, and who teaches us how to take care of each other still today so people eat. We're going to climb back in the Gumbagawhatzah, take all that warm clothes off, and sit down in our chairs. And before you know it, we're lifting up over the water. And if you look out the screen, I see the northern lights. Do you know what the northern lights are? They're like waves of light in the sky way up north. Usually they're green or blue. And there's nothing like it that we get to see down here in Matthews, but it's beautiful to see. How lucky we are to get to see that. Now we're going to travel in the Gumbagawhatzah to one more place. We're going down to Mexico. Because in Mexico and in the Latin countries, in the Latin American countries, and also where I grew up in the southern part of the western part of the United States, we celebrate something called Las Posadas this time of year. And Las Posadas in Spanish just means lodging, places to stay. And in this place, we won't have somebody dress up like St. Lucy. In this place, this village in Mexico we're going to, there will be instead a boy who dresses up as Joseph, Jesus' stepfather, and a girl who dresses up as Mary, the mother of Jesus. And they are doing what Joseph and Mary did before Christmas. They're looking for a place to stay. They have gone to Bethlehem because they had to, and they are looking for a place to stay. And that's what you do when you're in this village. We are going to travel with Joseph and Mary and try to find Las Posadas, the places where they can stay. Well, we have landed again, and this time we are in a part of Mexico that is still warm. It's way south, and even in the wintertime, it's warm. So we don't need those mittens and those heavy boots. We can go outside, and there in the village, you can see a little boy who is Joseph and a little girl who is Mary. And a whole bunch of the children of the village have gathered together, and they are also making a parade. And they are walking from place to place in the village, and they go up to the houses and knock on the doors and ask if there's a place for Mary and Joseph to stay there. And sometimes the people at the door will actually sing a song saying, "No, there's no place here for you." Or sometimes they will simply say, "No, there's no place here for you." But every once in a while, they will knock on the door and they will say, "Well, yes, yes, come in, come in." And they bring all of the children from the village and all of us in, and there we get to have some kind of wonderful something to drink, usually something that's like a chocolate, hot chocolate sort of drink, because they have lots of cacao in that part of the world, and maybe some sweet candy. And finally, we will go from house to house, and most houses will say there's no room at the inn for Mary and Joseph or a baby that's coming. But every once in a while, we'll get to go into a house and have another little snack until finally we get to the village church. And we go into the village church, and there in front of us is the manger scene. And we all kneel in front of the scene of a statue of Mary and Joseph and a baby, the baby Jesus, and we sing one of the great Christmas carols all together. And then when that is over, we go back out of the church, and in the square right in front of the church, hung right over us, is a great piñata. Do you know what a piñata is? Piñata is at Christmas time, the piñatas are always shaped like the stars of Bethlehem. Only they're many, many different colors made out of paper. And the piñata is made out of cardboard or paper, or sometimes in the old days they were often made out of clay. And then there is a stick, and each of us gets a chance with a blindfold on to swing the stick at the piñata. because we want to break that star open. Inside it are toys and candy, and we all would like to have some of that. And so all of us get a turn, and one of you just may be the one to break the star open. And there in the square is plenty of little toys and candy for all of the children. And so you get something special to take home with you, something from Mexico. Perhaps it's a little whistle shaped like a bird, or maybe even, I don't know, a little drum, or a picture of the sun in the old Aztec style, a beautiful painting. All kinds of pretty things that I could imagine. And maybe you can think of some other things too, or something just that you would love to have fall out of that piñata for you. Well, we've got to go 2 different places and experience 2 different traditions of the time as we get ready for Christmas. Children in those places, just like children here in the United States, are starting to get a little anxious about Christmas and about all the wonderful things that might happen. I hope you are a little anxious and excited, and I hope that our experience of these things in other places helps you understand how to wait with God for the coming of the baby Jesus and the greatest gift of all, the love of God for each of you and all of us. We'll see you on the Gumbagawhatzah again, closer to Christmas. Bye now.